So in this part of the competition, you are taking on a fictional business entity
Yes.
and identity, and you're assigning us similarly a fictional business identity
Yes, correct.
as the judges. So make sure we know who you are, not where you go to school,
Yes, of course.
just, and you'll have 25 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical aspects of the issues that you're bringing to us. And to recommend a solution that passes muster in all three areas, legal, financial, ethical. During that time, you will not be interrupted. When you're finished with your 25-minute presentation, we will spend the next 10 or 15 minutes asking you some questions. And after that period of time, we'll all take a deep breath, relax, and we'll give you some feedback. So whenever you're ready to start.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're so honored and blessed to meet all of you. As the board directors of Meta, we are a ThriveTrio EMN consulting group. My name is Nuran Salman, and I'm responsible and consultant to do the business problem and SDG part.
My name is Mara Asfour, and I will be responsible for the financial aspects and the solutions.
My name is Iman, and I'll be responsible over the ethical and the legal aspects.
So welcome to our presentation, and today we will be discussing the issue that if it's not going to be solved, it will affect us and the coming generation. Is Meta crossing the line? What's behind the button? So I'll leave you with Muna to go through the outline real quick.
Starting with the introduction, we're going to discuss the business problem, and then we're going to move to the SDG related to that. We chose SDG number 3, which is good health and well-being, and then we're going to move to the ethical cases, legal cases, and lastly, financial aspects and the solutions. Now, Nuran will continue the business problem.
So let me ask you a question. How much do you trust social media with your personal information? Well, I think that the majority of you and even me will agree that we don't trust it at all, but we are still using it. So we are going to discuss some concerns, and we mainly picked the 3 problems to discuss. So starting with the business problem, the 3 main problems are user privacy issue, misinformation and harmful content, data breach and security risk. Starting with the first one, user privacy issue, mass data collection. How is Meta collecting the information and behavioral pattern without our permission and using it against us? This is what we mean with mass data collection. And tracking across apps and websites. Have you ever think how does Meta application knows where you at? Because I have think about this even in LA, because my reels just changed on Instagram and they know where I'm at, and they are even suggesting things that I didn't ask for. Facial recognition issue, this happens actually because how they are taking the information and the transparency and security of how information are being handled. And with that, there is employees are being employed in unwanted surveillance. And I want to add that there is discrimination that's happening because they are biased into certain groups. Moving on to the second problem, which is misinformation, harmful content, spread of fake news. How they are using untrusted sources with the news that they are sharing, because with that we call it a rumor, and without evidence it's not approved. Ineffective fact-checking. I want to mention something about this, which is I think you have seen it, like the post is blurred, and it's written sensitive content, but at the end of the post you can still view it. What's the matter of doing that if we cannot view it at all? Why you allow it at the first place? Weak consent mechanism, it is something that we feel pressured about because the language that they are using for the terms and conditions is complex and it lacked clarity, which will make us feel stressed sometimes because we don't know our rights and we don't understand it. And with that, you have to select choice, but it's not your real choice. Because of course, yeah, it's given. And yes, I have choices, but it's not really my choices. So I'm forced to choose any between them just to use the application, because without that, I cannot use the application. I always agree at the terms and conditions because data breach and security is the last problem that I'm going to discuss. Weak security protection. We are threatened anytime to get our accounts hacked because there is many gaps that the professional can hack the account with. So it happened for one of my friends, and we still don't know how it got hacked, when, and who did that, because even the information was changed, which means that it all leads for weak security protection. Insider data leaks. From the word insider, we can know that employees from inside the company, they are doing illegal actions, which is selling the information of the user, which they are supposed to protect, but they are not. So they are getting paid to sell it, and you know what's happening. Phishing and scams. Of course, if I see secured websites with a non-company, and it's like big company like Meta's, I will share my information because maybe they are like putting some advantages. So I will share my credit cards or personal information, my email, my phone number. But unfortunately, the account will be hacked because it's a scam. Moving on to the summary of the problem, I want to highlight that user privacy and misinformation and harmful content beside the data breach are a big problem and ethical within meta practice. And if it's not going to be solved, then it will cause damage for the reputation. Moving on to the SDGs, we have selected SDG number 3, which is good health and well-being. To ensure healthy lives and well-being are promotes well-being for all ages. I'm going to discuss 3 issues. The first issue is the Massachusetts lawsuit. Meta use intentionally addictive features, and they are focusing mainly on the children and kids because we all know that they are easily convinced. And beside that, recently I have realized that the supervision from the parents and family members are not that good, and they are not seeing what their children is viewing. So as long as Meta is using surveys to collect data, why didn't they do survey to know who's using the application? Are they children or not? As a company, you have to check it. The second issue is Meta Pixel Tracking Tool lawsuit. They are gathering patient, healthcare, medicine, and their appointment to sell it for another companies so they can use it against the user without permission. And the third issue is mental health lawsuit of the youth user. This is related to the previous slide, that they are also putting content that they know you like it, so you will watch it over and over again. And I want to add that this action is illegal and it's damaging the safety and protection of the humans and the users, so it is violating the laws. So now I'll leave you with Mona to continue with the mission and vision part.
Thank you, Maran. Starting with the mission and vision of the company, the mission of the company is to help people connect globally through its platform and bring the world closer together. And the company's vision is to bring the metaverse into life, help people connect, find their own communities, and grow their own businesses. As much as we value your company's mission and vision, but are you really following that? Now, Iman will continue the ethical cases and the legal cases.
Hello, Board of Directors of Meta. My name is Iman, and I'll be covering the ethical cases. So, Meta has faced a lot of ethical failures. For that, they led to major lawsuits, which resulted in public distress. These are not small mistakes, by the way. These are patterns of harm that need to be addressed. I wanted to let you know on something. Did you know that Meta is commonly known for mishandling user data? The biggest example for that is the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where Facebook gave access to 87 million users without permission. And this is a violation of privacy. And they were fined for, your company was fined for $5 billion. And it is also used to manipulate elections. And in 2023, we found that your company was illegally transferring European user data to the US servers as well. Meta also failed to protect the harmful misinformation that was spreading. How would I know this? So, there is a case that happened in Myanmar where Facebook was used as a platform for hate speech to happen, which fueled the Rohingya genocide. That Rohingya genocide was fined by the US government, and it was around $150 billion by your company to pay for. And your company did absolutely nothing about this. And how would I know this as an advisor? Actually, a former executive of yours proved internal documents by exposing the fact that your company did absolutely nothing to prevent this because you were making money. And this is a misleading narrative. Speaking of money, let's talk a little bit about morals, ethics over morals. So your company, as we said earlier, you see that we care so much about profits. It also has an ad system in your platform where where you would allow home discriminations. For that, some landlords would give certain home listings and basically pick and choose the people that want to be living in this household, which is a lot. And then you also have a platform that is addictive, like Nuran said, and how a lot of these young individuals like me in my youth have gone through several mental disorders because of these images, these sensitive images, that some of them also led to suicide, which is very, really unethical. And then lastly, Meta also failed to protect user data. We have seen that you also gathered biometric data, like facial recognitions, and for that, Texas fined you for $1.4 million. And it is one of the biggest privacy-related in the US state. So in summary, we see that your company takes pride over profits, not much on the well-being, but we wonder, when will you finally take action? When will you finally understand that this is you're costing people's lives for this action, and this is a big violation. Now on the legal aspects, we dialed everything down onto 4 categories. We have the data privacy issues and legal compliance, misinformation and content control, we have the data breaches and cybersecurity failures, and then lastly, failure to meet regulatory standards. Let's start slowly with the data privacy issues and legal compliance. We have the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which is a political consulting firm, and which your company was paid a fine to pay $5 billion for, and this was under the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, where you gave, you allowed explicit content to be spread like that by using political profiling and targeted ads. And of course, you were fined for this violation, and it caused a lot of harm to the public image. We also have the Meta's GDPR fine. The GDPR fine is the General Data Protection Regulation, which we found that you are illegally transferring European user data to the US servers, and this was also used for the US government agencies to use these data without the Europeans' permission. So the Irish Data Commission's protection said, if you're going to do this, we want you to go under our protocols. Other than that, you cannot proceed. And now we're going to talk about the misinformation content control. COVID-19, where we all know we've gone through the pandemic, we've dealt through so many things, and Facebook actually was one of the biggest platforms that we go through. And there was a lot of misinformation that was spread, and Facebook did not, or Meta to be exact, did not do much to prevent this from spreading like crazy. So it was regarding the vaccines and the viruses and all this kind of stuff. And then we have the US election misinformation spread, where the aftermath of 2020, presidential elections, a lot of US states were furious over the fact that you guys were allowing voters fraud, which influenced people's opinion and the process of election. So you were told not to continue this process, and we need to find safer ways to control this. Data breaches and cybersecurity, we have massive breach and over 530 million users have their personal information exposed just like that. Personal information including addresses, credit card, all this kind of stuff. And it was crazy for a lot of people to endure and see. But here's the thing, your company did not face much financial damages over that. And a lot of people raised concerns over your security. And then the hack of Facebook's internal system happened as well, and where your company secrets, employees, personal information, all this was exposed as well. Although it was fixed, it still showed a lot of cybersecurity weaknesses. And then lastly, we'll talk about the failure to meet regulatory standards. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission, FTC, we had a settlement with Meta. And we found that we were breaking the privacy agreement back in 2012. So we found out that your company was allowing voters fraud, allowing third-party developers, you were allowing third-party developers without permission of the individuals. So it caused a lot of chaos in that factor. The European violations of Digital Market Act the Digital Market Act is a big tech company, and we found that Meta is not taking control much on the online advertising and as well as social media. So a lot of people raise concerns over this, and this is actually a very recent study. And if Meta does not comply, a lot of penalties and investigations are going to take place. So we see that we've faced a lot of actions, a lot of things that are happening in your company, and we want to move forward to try to make things better for people. Now, Mona will continue on in the financial aspects.
Thank you, Iman. I'll be continuing with the financial aspects. The company's ethical issue includes privacy violation, misinformation, and data breaches. These ethical challenges result in substantial financial consequences for the company. As a consulting team, we have categorized these financial aspects into 3 categories. I'll start with the first one, which is regulatory fines and settlements. As Iman mentioned earlier, the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which has occurred over $10 billion in 2019 for fines and settlements. Secondly, we have the privacy violation, which has occurred over 1.2 billion euros for unlawful European US data transfers. Moving on to the biometric data misuse, which also Iman mentioned earlier, which has been fined into $1.4 billion for transferring biometric data. And lastly, we have the data breaches, which has fined approximately to $300 million in 2024 for a 2018 data breach affecting 29 million users. Secondly, we have the operational costs for privacy enhancement. You, as a company, invested over $8 billion since 2018 for privacy improvements. Thirdly, we have the legal liabilities. We have ongoing litigation. A $5 billion lawsuit was allowed to proceed in 2024 with investors alleging failure to disclose data misuse risks affecting the stock prices. So, in summary, the company is handling user data, privacy violation and misinformation presents a costly challenge. The regulatory fines and settlements impact the company's financial stability. And lastly, the issue raises concerns about your company's long-term reputation. As a consulting group, after hearing the business problem, ethical cases, legal cases, and the financial aspects of the company, we have gathered some solutions for each problem. I'm going to start with the first one, which is strengthening user privacy protection. As a company, we want you to reduce unnecessary data collection. You may ask yourself how. We want you to implement a one-time password system where a user must give consent before their data is being collected. And secondly, we want you also to give the user full control if they want to delete their data permanently. And And also, we want you to restrict third-party data access. For example, we want you to give full control over which apps can access their data. For example, I can use WhatsApp, but I don't want to Instagram to access my data. Thirdly, also we want you to notify each user if their data is being collected, like a simple notification or a pop-up. And also, we want you to limit employee data access based on their job necessity. For example, I'm a financial employee. I don't have the need to access their data. I don't have any for example, a tech employee. I can access it. Why? Because maybe that user has a problem, so I can help him. And secondly, for combating misinformation and harmful content, we want you to improve the AI and human moderation. We want you to increase investments in AI-driven misinformation detection, and also we want you to partner with an independent organization for fact-checking. And also, we want you to improve user awareness. As Nuran mentioned earlier, the privacy setting was not clear, so we want you to also include educational pop-ups on how to spot fake news and misinformation trends. And also, we want you to simplify the privacy setting as much as possible. Thirdly, we want you to strengthen data security and prevent breaches. We want you to implement a stronger security measures by introducing end-to-end encryption for all messages, all phone calls, all emails across Meta's platform. And secondly, we want you to encrypt all messages, no matter what, at trust and to prevent any leaks. And secondly, we want you to conduct independent security audits to for example, hiring a third-party cybersecurity firms to audit the company's security system. And also, we want you, like every year or every month, publish a transparency reports on weak security and fixes. By following this approach, your company can significantly improve its handling of misinformation, security, ethics, while maintaining a sustainable business model. As a board of directors, thank you so much for listening, and we hope you take our consulting advice into consideration, and we're happy to take any feedback and questions.
Thank you for listening.
Drew, you want to start with the question?
Yes, sir. Can you go back to the solutions first?
The first.
Okay.
Can I have that? Sure.
So when you say unnecessary data collection,
Yes.
what do you mean by that?
So basically, sometimes, as Nuran mentioned earlier, when you enter your, let's say, name, email, your address, for example, they take it and put it, like, let's say, in files and keep it for later. Also, Imam mentioned earlier, there's some insider data leaks. They take these information and sell it to other people. For example, foreign companies, they ask for people's data, and as far as I know, they've been calling or sending emails to those specific people that they bought from your company. So yeah, they're taking these data and put it, as I said before, into files. And I don't think your company needs to have all of this information while leaving all of the problems not to be solved.
I want to add that many fake accounts could be created with fake emails, and they can contact you without you knowing their identity. So this is dangerous because it's happened for many people and they have suffered. You don't know the identity of who's the person that's talking to you and why.
And just to add a little more, there is a lawsuit, actually, several lawsuits when it comes to Meta and how they have continuously used people's data, especially if, let's say, they want to use it for Instagram to write in their usernames and all this kind of stuff. Sometimes they would keep it for like government agencies to use without permission, without their explicit consent. So these are things that are harmful for us that we're not fully aware of it and no one's really telling us about. So yeah.
Can I add to Nora what she said? Actually, this happened to me. Like I don't know who sent me a message through my email. I didn't give my email to anyone. It was like a new email. I just signed in into Instagram, and suddenly I got an email from like a complete stranger, and I was like scared. I was like, where did you get my email? And that led to like insider leak and
It's happened to me too, and I feel stressed about it.
So you mentioned that Meta's putting around $8 billion
yes,
in investments
Yes.
into probably a number of those bullets, right? As far as attempted
for-
solutions.
Yes, for the financial aspects, you invested like every year $8 billion
Mhm.
since 2019 to improve your privacy settings, but I don't think you really did that.
Mhm.
I feel like
It's just a
every
hoax.
year it's the same going.
All over again.
Please.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What a surprise. And I just forgot what it was. No, I'm not. So I'm stuck on this solution.
Yeah.
And I'm a board member from Meta, right? So I know most of this stuff. I know the company does most of this stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's illegal. Yeah, it's not ethical. But the company is continuing to do it. So why? Wait, I have two questions. One is why? Tell me why we need to do this.
Why do we need to be ethical? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because I'm not. Now, in the real world, I am. But I'm sitting on the board of directors and I know all this
Yes.
already. So every bit of information you gave me was the kind of the factual reason why. But can you elaborate and tell me how it'll make the company better?
The reputation, of course, because like, can you imagine that everyone is getting affected by that? Because like many people's life was threatened also, not because of the privacy issue and what we were talking about. Many got stalked, and
Mental health was also being involved, yes, and a lot of people went through suicide, and this is a big thing. And like I said on my very last factor, which was about failure to meet regulatory standards, your company is going to take action very soon by the Digital Markets Act. It's a big tech company, and they know about your online advertisements and your social media and how you function around it. And you're going to face big investigations and bigger penalties, bigger than what we've talked about. So this is a very recent thing that's going on with your company that needs to be addressed.
And instead of like thinking about money mainly, let's think about human being health. Yeah.
Okay. And then the second question I had is you talk about AI as part of the solution.
Yes.
We're also talking technology. So personally, I really like AI, but not everybody is open to it. So how will AI improve all of this
So
ethical stuff?
yeah, I was thinking about that too when I was writing the solutions. I think everyone is using ChatGPT to check some informations and stuff. I thought, like, as a consulting group, of course, we thought that it's gonna help detect any misinformation trends. For example, as Iman mentioned earlier, for the COVID-19 pandemic, we're spreading fake news about, let's say, the vaccination. It's gonna they're gonna put some what's it called, location detection and those
Yeah.
stuff. People we're scared to take the vaccination because of this. So we recommending to you to use AI to help not to spread fake news and misinformation. So people cannot like be scared from these things. Also, from the U.S. Elections, they were saying many stuff, many rumors. People they're getting confused on, let's say, who to vote to, who to go to. So they were like confused on what to choose.
Also, AI is programmed to use the specific language and to avoid topics that is not appropriate to be shown. So it will be a good solution.
Is there anything that's really private?
Sorry?
Is there anything that's really private?
With your company?
No, with information. I mean, who cares? Everything about me is out there. People already know.
Yes, but some people feel insecure for that. Like
Yeah, and a lot of people's lives are at risk. You know, some people actually were led through suicide because of these information that was spread like wildfire. So for us to not address this is a serious matter because people's lives are on your hands as a company, and this is huge. And it's not okay because it's really jeopardizing the title of your company. We know that you have mentioned in your mission and vision about transparency and protecting user data, but none of these things are applied. No matter how much you repeated this thing, it was not really applied like you said it would be.
yes, I want to have a real choice to select what I want to share, not someone sharing my things instead of me, because I will not feel comfortable enough to go to the public and they suddenly know me. It's
So
happening.
use a different platform. Don't use Meta.
Yes, but
Everybody-
Meta is dominating.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
just dominating everything, yeah. So because also AI is taking over, some people, I don't know if you've seen like videos and advertisements where people have their face, you know, for example, like a young girl, her face has been taken by AI and she's like talking as though she needs help by her family and whatnot, but in reality it's just someone trying to get money from their family. If that makes sense? It's like, you know.
And Meta is connected for many applications that even me, I get surprised sometimes because I didn't know that Meta is connected for this application like WhatsApp, Messengers, Instagram, and many applications. Even TikTok and Threads, everything.
Sorry.
So you guys mentioned our reputation
Yes.
seemed to be a common thread. For the last, we'll go from 2019, from the 2018, 2019 time till now, our user count has grown, revenue has grown, right? Yeah, I know we've been sued here and there, we've taken some hits, so do auto companies, right? Car blows up, they pay fines, they have a calculation when they decide to do a recall. You know, we're trying to do our best, and sometimes we make mistakes, and you know, we're making a ton of money. Our goal here as board members is shareholder value, and you know, we're trying to comply with the legal requirements around the world. And as my other esteemed board member said, people are welcome not to use the platform. It's free, right? Part of the free, the way it's free is we have to monetize the data to make the platform free to run the whole thing. And we obviously don't want people to hurt themselves, but people do alcohol all the time and other things all the time. You can choose just not to participate in those things. There's other platforms you could go to. So if we continue, obviously, to get more successful and we're making more revenue and the user count is going up, and we've had some missteps in some markets, and we'll deal with the European market. They're a little bit more stringent in the US market, but for the next 4 years, I don't think the US market's going to be a worry for us. So we're probably not going to face much regulation here. What really is our incentive from a shareholder value perspective to start cutting legs out of the financial stool that supports the company? Because these are all the ways we make the money. This is our financial engine that creates revenue. Aside from this reputational thing, which doesn't seem as really affecting us because more people keep coming, not less, not even plateauing, it's increasing. From a shareholder perspective, what is our justification of besides maybe protecting a few people that want a little bit more protection and control?
How to protect them, or you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I understand a group of people is having a negative experience. You know, 30 years ago, we used to publish phone books here in the United States, had the name and phone number of everybody on there, and you could look it up. I know this is a little bit different, but it's a new world. You know, what is really, how do we go to our shareholders and say, by the way, the reason we've reduced revenue 37% and your stock price has collapsed by half is because well, we just wanted to be a little nicer to people around the world. You know, what's our go back to our shareholders? Because we represent the shareholders. Our job is shareholder value.
Yes.
So how do we sell that to shareholders who continue to support our company if we have to cut a huge amount of revenue out, take a financial hit, or change really the model of how Facebook operates?
So I think we suggest to start small, to convince them on simple parts. For example, let's start with improving the privacy settings, simplify them more, make them more simple for users to understand them. From that, we can start slowly convincing them more on, let's say, not to spread insider data leaks, limits employee data access. As I mentioned earlier, if I'm a financial employee, I don't need to get to other people's data. And
I think that anything that supports humanity and freedom will increase the revenue of the company more, because I know many people who are still not using social media because they are scared of their information getting leaked. So I think that if you give the freedom and spread humanity, for a human being, like the SDG 3 that we discussed, the revenue will increase even more,
Yes.
because you're giving a real choice.
And the numbers
Yeah.
of lives of people going through this mental disorders is increasing tremendously because of your platforms. So if we do not act now, I mean, you're going to face charges, as I said earlier, that are bigger than what we've talked about. And the company could lose a lot for this, because $150 billion is not little for your company. 7 billion, 8 billion we've talked about. There are so many other lawsuits that happen that really messed with a lot of people. So, yeah.
I got one more. One of the solutions around misinformation.
Yeah.
I think you said that the recommendation is to outsource that. So we would be outsourcing our ethical responsibility to a third party to let them decide what's truth and what's not?
No, it's like hiring a third party, like working with your employees to improve the settings of the company. For example, as I mentioned earlier, the cybersecurity. So they help you to improve those settings to for users to be safe. For example, to prevent data leaks. As I mentioned, misinformation, data breaches, and everything.
So how is is the third party helping with the misinformation or no? Is that still?
No, this is something we want to implement.
Yeah.
You want to implement from a third party?
Yes, from a third
A
party.
third party,
Yeah.
someone that's going to come in
Yes.
to help us determine what the truth is.
Yes. So
I want
basically,
to add
Okay.
for that
Sure.
you as a big company like Meta and board of directors, you know that each person has different abilities and skills. So
Mhm.
another person helping your employee will be better because they have different perspective,
Mhm.
different skills, different knowledge.
Jackie?
I don't have any questions at the moment.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Any other questions from the judges? If not,
Board, we're the board right now.
Yeah,
We're not judges, we're not judges
From the
yet,
board.
we're the board.
we're done.
Yeah, we really
Take a deep
appreciate
breath.
that and your
Yeah.
interesting questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Take a deep breath.
Okay.
We'll start with
yes.
feedback.
I'll start off. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'll start off with, from my perspective.
Yes.
So you're not board of directors now?
Now
we're-
we're judges.
Now we're judges. Now we're
You
real
can breathe.
people.
But as the board of directors, I felt like I was chided
Yeah.
all the way through until the last 3 slides of solutions that were just some bullets. Long story short, I think that there was a lot of time spent telling Meta's board how messed up we are, and then a very short amount of time with not a lot of meat of just some bullets of solutions that are very complicated solutions. And
I can explain to you how to do it.
so I'm saying that as far as I know it's important to hit, as you did, financial, legal, all the things that you're supposed to hit. But I would say that most of the meat should probably spent on the solutions. If you're gonna have 9 solutions, then we gotta be able to blow some of those out. And then, this is something here, I have, actually, my business school, I have 2 friends from business school who are a pretty big deal at Meta. One's on the IT side, and one actually ran the ethics of truth, like what's truth, and he ran the policing teams that were on the site and trying to find what was misleading. And it is to hear this guy talk is just amazing. It is an extremely complicated and they're in who's to say what the truth is, or is that a lie, or is that the truth? It's really difficult conversations. So this is very difficult things to tackle. Facebook obviously walked away from the whole thing, right, and said, I'm not going to spend $8 billion a year anymore, whatever their new policy is. But I guess what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, is that a lot of this information is public, especially for Meta. Did you guys research the kind of penetration testing they do, the type of tech stack? This is one of the most technically complicated companies in the world. They have they have the best engineers on the planet that are doing these audits and these all day long. I mean, you can imagine, right? There's somebody all day long that's doing this. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think some of your solutions, they're definitely already being done, but there could have been a lot more. We could Google some of them and find a lot more information on what exactly is being done. So I feel like there was a lot to be left to be desired on the solutions front, from my perspective.
I think that the part about the lawsuits and how much the company has spent on fines, and that's really compelling. I know you spent some time with that, because I think that's also the issue, because if someone commits suicide because they saw something on Facebook, that person can sue. Can sue Meta, because they have deep pockets. I mean, they have a lot of money, so they're going to go to not the person who posted it, but the platform, because there'll be more impact in that way, and again, deeper pockets, because they actually have a lot of money. So that affects the bottom line for the company, and it also affects, like you said, the reputation. You did mention that as well. So so when you talk about with the questions at the end, the impact of people, there's also an ethical motivation, but it's more for the company. It's probably more reputational for them. And because that can ultimately affect their bottom line if they have a poor reputation. But if users are going up, like you mentioned, with like why as a board, why would I care if it doesn't have a business impact? And if they sue me and I have to pay a government fine of $500 million, okay, they could incorporate it as part of their cost of doing business. I know a lot of companies do that, by the way. They'll say, well, we'll take our risk because the financial gain on the other end is higher than the fine that we would potentially pay. So those are just some things that big companies think about. And coincidentally, by the way, I worked for Mattel, and I worked on their privacy with the children's, and they got hit with a big fine, and YouTube got hit with a big fine because they were tracking kids online and using their data to serve them ads. So since that big, huge fine, and since then, things have been more regulated. So now YouTube has YouTube Kids. And I mean, it was really interesting. It's like YouTube will say, well, we're a 13+ platform, and if you go on our site, we clearly say we're 13+, but yeah, you would like content for preschoolers. So who's going to watch the preschool content? It's going to be preschoolers, it's going to be 3, 4, 5-year-olds are on there so you're attracting, you have the content, you allow content, they don't make content, but they allow content that will attract young children. So how can they really say they're a 13+ platform? So now there are ways that you can, they have found ways and solutions to help regulate so that that kind of content doesn't get ads. And I remember watching, when I first worked there, I was like kind of looking into, because I come from a television network experience, and this is my first time working on the entertainment side of Mattel, but it's a toy company, by the way, that makes Barbie and Hot Wheels they're most famous for. So I was looking on the website, and I remember watching like a Barbie video on YouTube, and you know, the NRA, which is the National Rifle Association banner, came up because it comes up randomly. It wasn't like they were targeting children, but it was random at the time. And I was just shocked. Now it didn't have any guns. It just had these figures, but it said NRA. I know what NRA is, and I don't think most parents. Some parents might think it's okay, but I think most parents would think that it's not okay for a 5-year-old to see a banner that says NRA, that we all know in this country is the National Rifle Association, which pushes for pro-gun legislation. That's an adult topic. So since then things have changed, which is the good part. But I agree with you that there is a way for the company, in this case it was Mattel, and Meta would be a part of, would be a partner in those kind of solutions, so that things like that don't happen, you know, on the Meta platforms. So I just wanted to share that with you, that there has been some progress.
Can I add something? I want to add for the professor here that yes, most of solutions have been done. We will not argue about that, but are the solutions that were done and it was implementing are right? Is it what, like, do we get the advantage of like them implementing? No, we still suffer. That's why we are discussing that.
Right.
Maybe the solution is done by the company, but the problem is not solved yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
By putting a solution doesn't mean that the problem is over.
Right.
I just wanted to share that I thought your research was excellent.
Thank you.
Obviously complex issues involved. You put in the effort not only to learn it, but then to tell us without using notes, eye-to-eye contact, very good presentation skills.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
And the slides were very good. They were very simple,
Yeah.
and they weren't didn't have too much information. It just had just enough. It was very attractive. Really complimented how you presented, and I like that you didn't use notes and that you just knew the material and you just kind of naturally talked about it. I would say with the solutions, remember you were mentioning some numbers on the impact of the solutions. Now that I would add in the slides, because I felt like, because it was so impactful. It was at the end.
It was at the end,
I
this
think, no, one more.
It's financial, right?
Maybe here, I'm not sure. Was there another one after that?
I think it was with the financial.
I'm not sure about this. I think it was solutions.
No.
Here.
Yeah, it's the
Here.
financial part.
I think you could put in some numbers there, without making it too cluttery. With, you know, just 3 billion, or, you know, again, I don't like a whole lot of information on a slide, but what you were saying verbally was really impactful, and the slides
Of course,
really are there
to,
just to complement
I don't
what
want
you're
you to
saying.
like spoil any information before
Yeah,
I
that's
say.
true, that's true.
You know, sometimes
I get
spoilers
it.
ruin the
Yeah.
excitement.
That would be my only, I'm being very picky, you know. Overall, it was a very strong presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So I thought you guys, first of all, take on Facebook and Instagram, for goodness sakes. Just like my colleague said, that's a huge company to take on. Ethics is about reducing harm, and it's also about doing good. So I heard a lot I'm a board member, and I heard a lot of what I did wrong. Now you gotta sell me. So we're in a world right now where everything changes every minute, and I sort of feel like everyone has half a screw loose. So there's not a lot of reasoning behind things. So put yourself in, if you can get to the why, And there's a great video called What Is Your Why by Michael Jr. Don't watch the regular one, watch the one by Michael
Can you
Jr.
write it?
Yeah.
And tell me when you're talking to me why I should do this. What is the value added? What is the good part? What is gonna make me more competitive? What is going to, not just, I'm already making boatloads of money, what's going to make me more? What's going to keep me in front of people's faces and eyes? And one of the things that you can also do is collaborate and partner with the NGO sector. So you talked about mental health. You talked about, and we know that they're constantly getting chastised for mental health issues. What can you do? Maybe partner with Mental Health of America. Do something big and visible, and then I have a little bit of an ego as a board member. Then I might listen to you because I'm already brushing off some things that we're doing probably not so ethically. But sell me as to the why, and I'll listen to you, and I might even buy it.
I'm gonna say that a different way. You guys talk a lot about the cost, like the legal costs and all those costs. So if you think about you talked about the missing cost that we could recover. You didn't talk about anything that you can gain. So like, so that's, I think about it the same way you said it. We see what we can recoup some cost. Great. What are we gaining? What's the positive of that? And even in a graph, that would be neat to see.
We have, no, sorry.
Oh, no, so you're fine. I was done.
We highlighted reputation many times because reputation matters, like for all of us. We like to hear that we're doing well, that everything is good, and we're gaining like love, and we're spreading awareness by doing everything that supports humanity.
I mean, this is what happened in the beginning when Meta first started. Reputation was great and everything, and why all of a sudden are we tipping? Why all of a sudden we're allowing things that are unethical? Yes, money is being involved, but at what cost? Blood is in your hands as a board of directors, and it's not okay. So, yeah.
Their cost is my information, but what's my cost to them?
You guys took on, unlike my board member persona, I am really, really pleased you guys took this topic on, because I think this is, and I feel incredibly bad for your generation. This is, because
especially our generation.
the time that I grew up in when this didn't exist, I can 100% tell you I would happily burn all social media and tech.
Absolutely.
And go back to before this existed.
Absolutely.
Because it is ruining humanity in more ways than I can count. I've lost track of it. With that said, I can tell you the reason that happened is sums of money that are so large you can't even imagine. That's right. That's why you're having to talk to us, and that's why you picked this. That's why this has happened, because the cost of not doing anything is still, does not outweigh the cost of doing something. It's not to their benefit yet to take any action. So when you want to tell this group of people that in theory just wants to protect the money-hungry company, you have to sell them to what they were saying earlier. Why is doing the right thing better than you just not doing the wrong thing? So, not just what you didn't, not what you're not going to pay in fines. Did you know in Europe, for example, you look into it and say, you might lose the European market because their data regulation rules are far superior. We have 3 offices in my company in Europe, and I can tell you, 60% of the stuff that we send out in our Europe, like we have to have it rewritten to be delivered to our European colleagues. So before we have our company send out anything about information requests, this and that, does it pass GDPR? Oh, we have a German office, a UK office, does it? It's amazing how much more serious they take it in the US. It's almost like a lawless country here when it comes to that point. So you might lose the market. Oh yeah, you're growing. That's why I told you, we're growing. Well, yeah, you're growing this much, but what if you could grow this much? What if in the activist climate that you see taking hold, if people really trusted Meta, they would flock to it even more, and they would spend more time on it. And what if they had more positive things? All these things that affect the bottom line, because then the board member that wants to support going this route and has to answer to some activist shareholder who owns $9 billion of the stock says, well, no, this is in benefit of our bottom line, not despite of it. So how does the good outweigh the bad to do it? Because as much as I hate to admit it, in most big companies, That's the calculation they make. In car companies, we have a product out there. Well, we estimate the rate of failure to be 1.4% times how many cars, times average settlement. We're gonna kill 83,000 people. We think that's worth this number. If that number is less than the number to fix the problem, they will not fix the problem. Bottom line.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
I know,
so true.
I know, because half of my clients are auto companies, the major ones in the world, and I can tell you that is factually how they do business. They're not gonna recall, the only reason Tesla is recalling these Cybertrucks is because they're thinking if that metal piece flies off into someone's head, each lawsuit's gonna be a 40, 50, $60 million lawsuit. We've got 40,000 trucks out there, and all of these pieces are gonna fail at some point. So it's like an 80% failure rate. Okay, fine, we called it 40,000 trucks. That is the only component that I thought, if you added, would have added more impact to your presentation, along with, putting some of those numbers in. That numbers catch board members' eyes. Oh, the damage, that's good. Oh, the upside, now I got it. So the elevator speech when I'm talking to someone else is, guys, not only do we not pay these billions, but there's these billions on the table that we're not, getting back. That's what it takes to impact the money-hungry, kind of not ethically minded corporation, which I think we can all agree, if they were, they would have done this proactively, but they're not. It's just not to the benefit.
Yeah, great topic though. It's
Tough
fantastic,
topic.
Very well done.
timely. Very, very timely, yeah.
What amazes me is looking at some cases of ethical failures by business and the amount of money that they're willing to spend. It's all ROI. It's all, boy, if I'm gonna lose more, well, that's a problem. But if ultimately at the end of the day, if it doesn't really cost what I see as a lot, I hear billions of dollars, but I don't know necessarily what that company is valued at. And a lot of these big companies, I'm thinking about the Wells Fargo scandal a few years ago, they don't care. I mean, we just got smacked on the hand, oh well. So it's that education, and why should we do good? Why do we have to do good?
Nicely done.
Very well done.
Honestly, you stimulated a lot of conversation, which I hope you consider a compliment.
I wanted to add for you actually that kids are not kids anymore because they are not playing Barbie and watching Barbie.
Yeah, it's interesting. They watch YouTube, by the way. That's what they watch now.
Most of them now
That's
are
free. The other issue is YouTube is a platform that you don't need to subscribe to.
Yeah.
You can have an experience on YouTube for free. I mean, you don't need to be a subscriber. I mean, that's how they differentiate. And for example, in Netflix, you need to subscribe. You need to fill out a form. You need to pay. So that there's some controls there, and parents actually have. There are privacy controls on platforms like Netflix or Paramount Plus and Hulu and that sort of thing, so they can help control what their kids are watching. But YouTube, no. YouTube is now they have the YouTube Kids app, so the parent has the option of saying, okay, you can only watch what's on the app, and that is more. Closely moderated, and there are no ads and that sort of thing. But it's still a big issue, and kids now they just go on YouTube for all they're watching. So it continues to be an issue, and I don't think it's going away. But by the way, in the streaming space, a lot of what I think what you're talking about is called trust and safety. They call them trust and safety departments, and this is I happen to be applying to jobs for trust and safety because I come from a broadcast television background and work. What's called standards and practices, which includes the government regulations and company policies and positive social impact and that sort of thing. On the streaming side, they call it trust and safety. So there does seem to be some concern because of liability. So if someone injects, you were talking about the injection of some substance that's going to cure you instead of a vaccine. the Netflix, for example, I know this, because I've had conversations with employees there. It does fall under trust and safety. Well, do they, I mean, you can say that there's a freedom of speech in this country, so we're just gonna put everything out there.
Yeah.
It's also subscribers based, so, people are signing up for this and they're actually paying for it. You know, we're just going to, just put it out there and let the viewer decide what they want to watch. So they have choices, but they do get to a point where like, well, maybe we don't want to show that, documentary on how to inject bleach so that you're protected by COVID. They are concerned about that, and that's the safety part, and the trust part, and trust in the platform and trust in the brand, but not as much as broadcast, because broadcast is heavily regulated by the government, so they wouldn't be able to. There'd be no way. So it's just interesting as new platforms come in. Now that AI is coming in, that presents even more interesting challenges where you really can't tell what's real, what's not real, and how AI's. You can put stuff in ChatGPT, but it's only grabbing what's out there. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true.
True.
That's not how ChatGPT works. It just grabs onto whatever information is out there. It doesn't filter for fact checking. So you still need a fact checking fund. But anyway, so thank you. Obviously we've had a very lively conversation. I hope you consider that as a compliment, like I mentioned before. Fantastic presentation, fantastic topic.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Ali,
You're
did
welcome.
you give your feedback?
You did.
Okay, that's fine.
Good question, now you made me wonder if I actually did it or not.
No, you
You
did.
mentioned earlier
Thank
that
you.
you want to burn the whole social media. Sometimes I wish we come back to writing letters and sending them.
I
really
know,
wish that.
we talked about it. I remember the very first email account I got in 1997, back when I could just get my last name at yahoo.com.
Yeah.
It's that old. And you had a 10 megabyte limit, not for an email, for the whole account. Right? That was just the right amount of technology.
It's
With the
true.
introduction of AI, I am terrified that truth will no longer exist. You can no longer trust an audio recording or a video of something, or a picture of something. So the ability, we think it's bad now, the ability to blur the lines and to lie to people and to start a genocide of another group besides Rohingyans, or to influence another election, to show a candidate doing whatever, the amount of dystopian fear that it puts in my head, which I already see happening, so people, they can't call it hyperbolic anymore. I see evidence of it already, and it just started, AI is just 2 years in. Imagine what it's gonna be 5 years from now. So I am, sadly, we gotta rely on your generation, because you're the biggest cohort coming up at this point. So as the older group is dying off, you're gonna have the most amount of power in the world at the moment. And if you guys can't help us make these changes, it's gonna be a very difficult future for all of us. Because it makes the operating of society, I believe, incredibly difficult.
And I think we're also in our own bubbles. I think before you watch TV and you're exposed to a little bit of everything, different commercials, different programs. But now with the Facebook and the Instagram, I only get fed the things that I like. So I can even block channels I don't even want to see, especially like my news feed. I have Apple News, and I don't want this. I only want to hear and look at what I agree with and what I like, and it just keeps feeding me more of what I like, but then I don't see the full picture. I'm not seeing the other side as much because I'm not exposing myself. So I think, yes, we have more access to information with the technology that we have today, but at the same time, the technology now has put us in our own little bubbles where I'm not seeing what's going on in other places, and they're not seeing my world. So I think that's really interesting. So we're relying on you.
I love that, by the way.
So keep up the good work. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.